I grew up super, super Christian. I grew up so Christian I wasn't allowed to watch Batman. I had to watch Bible Man growing up. But the thing that I remember the most is that I was never allowed to listen to non-Christian music, which sucks because music is a window into worlds that aren't your own. I grew up with a dad that was a pastor. He was all about gospel and Motown music. It was very formal, it was soulful, but it wasn't mine. And so the rules growing up for my dad was, he was like, rap is reckless and it leads you down a wrong path. And I want to raise you as if life is an assignment. I want to raise you with commitment and discipline, which sounds terrible in 8th grade. Awful. What I remember is that my dad wouldn't allow me to wear any ripped clothing, no baggy T-shirts. I had to wear polos and nice slacks. And my dad was the type of dude that looked like he probably wore a 3-piece suit in preschool. You know what I mean? So that was natural for him, but not for me. And so for most of my friends, Monday through Friday, they had the same rules, but on the weekends, they got to do what they wanted to do. But for me, I was a pastor's kid, so Monday through Sunday, I had all these eyes on me, and I had to live that way all the time. So I remember I never smiled in public because I thought I could only be myself in private. But one day, it was a Wednesday night church service, and I see this giant tall tee, this T-shirt that stretches beyond your knees, walking towards me. And I remember thinking, like, whoa, it was casual, it was braggadocious, it was everything I wanted to be. And that tall tee's name was Antonio. Antonio was from the inner city, and his swag was somewhere between James Dean and R&B singer Ray J. He joined the youth group, and I remember he said, hey, yo, Pastor Ben, Pastor Sharice, I just need a little bit of prayer because I got caught doing some stuff I shouldn't have been doing, and so I could be going away for a really long time. Now, that scared me, a kid from the suburbs, but Antonio ended up giving that same prayer request every week from then on out. So it starts to wear off after a while. I started to get to know Antonio. We both loved music, and so we both joined the choir. Antonio was too young to join the adult choir, but that was his goal. That was his end-all, be-all. So as I start to hang with Antonio, I start to get introduced into the world of snap music, which is braggadocious, it's simple, it's vulgar, and it is really about doing what you want to do. And so Antonio introduces me to this world of truancy, pretty girls, and snap music, and I'd see him talking to girls, and he'd be like, yo, girl, I'm a man of God. I know Lil Wayne verses and Bible verses. You know what I'm saying? Find you a man that can do both. And so I started to explore Antonio's world, and one day I thought, well, what if I show Antonio my world? And so I remember I showed him, this is a very badass gangster artist, Avril Lavigne. And there's no reason why Antonio should have accepted me. He was from the inner city. I was from the suburbs. But he started dancing to it. He's like, yeah, I like this. This got a little bop to it. He starts dancing. I started to feel it, and I remember feeling like, whoa. It was so much cooler not just to be let into someone else's world, but to share with somebody your own. And so that spark of encouragement took me from listening to music to making music. And I started working on my very first track about the 9th grade lip gloss epidemic called Girl, Your Lips Are So Crackly. I am, in my mind, it's an R&B song that went diamond. You know what I mean? All that courage helped me work on my second track about transgressive Canadian women called Fries and Gravy. And through this process, we're starting to change. I'm starting to make music. Antonio's starting to make music. I'm starting to skip class. Antonio's starting to show up on time for choir. It's a great time. But then Antonio comes back to youth choir with a second prayer request. He goes, hey, y'all, I got caught doing some stuff that I shouldn't have been doing, and this time it's going to go to court, and I could get tried as an adult. And it was scary for all of us because, to me, Antonio was not much older than me, and I just couldn't. It was horrifying for me to think about what would happen to him in prison. And so I was scared, and I remember I committed, and I was disciplined for praying for him. And it was so scary that all my siblings prayed for him, the youth choir prayed for him, my mom prayed for him. And I went to service the next Wednesday, and he wasn't there. And I went to service the next Wednesday, and he wasn't there. I remember I got home, and my dad was sitting at the table, and he got my report card and had my very first 2 C's on it. And I can imagine from his perspective, his son went from like the Brady Bunch to Lil Wayne in this tall tee immediately. He was so upset that I imagine he transformed from Pastor Ben to Suge Knight. It was scary, guys. It was a lot of yelling. But for the first time, I stood up to my dad. And for the first time, I understood what he was coming from. Because in his mind, he didn't want me to wind up in a body bag or in jail. And I remember him telling me, if you keep going down this path of skipping class and just doing what you want to do, by the time you want to change your mind and change course, it'll be too late. And so, me being Jet, I decided to commit and be more disciplined to skipping school and talking to more pretty girls during homeroom. I actually started hosting rap listening parties in other teachers' rooms. And I started working on my third track, and I went to church on Wednesday, and Antonio was there. It was like an angel had, come down from heaven. I was like, Antonio, I was like, where you been? He's like, yeah, man, like the courts are so congested, they threw my case away. I'm free. But Antonio was now too old to be in youth choir, but his character wouldn't allow him to get into adult choir. And so he had a decision to make. He had to prove that he could actually be committed and disciplined, that he could live life like it was an assignment and be an adult. So he decided he was going to use the church talent show to prove he had changed. So at the point, even though I've been making music, I was too nervous to do the talent show. So I completely invested in Antonio's pursuit. So Antonio shows up to the talent show with him and 3 other dudes with tall tees that look like nightgowns. I imagine they were like the Hood, Peter Pan, and the Lost Boys. And he shows up and he was like, y'all, I just want to introduce y'all to Antonio and the Rice Krispie Treats. I couldn't even say anything. He had such confidence, I didn't want to even speak to quash his dreams. But this was very serious for him because he was going to change his life around with this talent show. So Antonio and the Rice Krispie Treats do the lean with it, rock with it dance. The kids go crazy. Antonio and the Rice Krispie Treats do the motorcycle dance. The kids go crazy. Antonio and the Rice Krispie Treats do the Soulja Boy dance, and they come in 3rd place. Antonio was crushed. And service ended. We had to turn all the lights off. We go home. And that was the last time I remember seeing Antonio. I came back to service the next Wednesday, and he wasn't there. I came back to service the next Wednesday, he wasn't there. But what I remember most about Antonio was that to my dad, my dad lived life like it was an assignment, but I never watched him have a good time. But I watched Antonio live life like it was an adventure, and he was always smiling. I hadn't performed music in almost 20 years, and someone invited me to coincidentally perform at a club called Junior High, LA in January. And I remember that the whole reason I'd even gotten to that point was because I was committed and disciplined, but I still was nervous and overwhelmed in the venue. And then a rap song came on that was Antonio's favorite rap song. And I remembered if I commit to this song and I'm disciplined about it, it'll be a great song and it'll be great for everybody else. But if I approach it like an adventure, then I'll smile all the way through and everybody will have a good time. Thank you guys so much.